This is how we do it. Da 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 da.
Oh, Sam Central does it like nobody does, right? Is that what?
This is true.
This is how we do it.
It's Sunday night.
It actually is.
It actually is Sunday, except it's Friday night in the song.
You know what comes on tonight that I got Wesley to watch, but you probably haven't seen yet?
What?
Lovecraft Country.
Wes has started watching that.
It's very good.
I almost chose the book for that for this episode.
Really? Mm-hmm. I didn't even know it was based on a book.
Based on a book. Mm-hmm.
The third episode killed me. It was amazing. So I'm excited to go back home after this and watch the next episode. And that's relevant to today's topic.
Wow.
Wow. Owen Wilson. Wow.
Wow.
Cobi, how are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you, Cory?
I'm great. Listeners, how are y'all? We'll wait. Go ahead and answer.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that's awesome. And Denise, I'm so sorry to hear about that. You know, I wish your mom all the best.
D nice.
D nice. Hey, be nice to D nice. Joshua, how are you?
Joshua.
Okay, so this is Booked on a Feeling. Both cast if you're nasty.
Yeah.
Yeah. I stole that from you.
I know.
We're going to say that from now on.
It's okay. This is a podcast where we talk about books and how they make us feel.
Yes. And we get way too in detail about the books that we cover, but that's okay.
Yeah.
So spoiler warning.
Yeah, so if you came here just for like an offhanded book review, that's not what this is.
This is not a non-spoiler review. This is a spoiler, chock full of spoilers.
Exactly.
So if you're allergic, back up. No, don't back up. Listen, maybe. I don't know. Do what you do. You
Yeah.
do you.
Yeah, you do you, but like please stay and listen. Really appreciate it. Today we're talking about discrimination.
Yes, we are.
Going to be discussing books about discrimination. I'd like to make a little bit of a fly.
Fly? Did you say fly or did you
Fly.
say FYI?
A fly. FYI.
Why are you sounding it out phonetically?
I don't know. I got it from a TV show, I think, and I always thought it was funny. I forgot what it was from though. Anyway, not the
something
point.
out there.
Stop distracting me.
Okay, I'm gonna take a drink.
Okay. This episode is about discrimination. It is not lost on me nor on Cory that we have never experienced these types of things that we're about to talk about, but we are both learners. We want to learn about these things. We want to be able to sympathize. So please don't come for us on social medias, okay? This is all in the name of education, of broadening our horizons.
Yes, because that is what this is about. Is just getting to understand the world a little more each day.
Exactly.
Yep. Okay, so let's roll into some icebreakers.
Yes.
You want to go first? Or you want me to?
I'll go first because I went last time.
Okay. And you said that this is not relevant to the topic today?
This is not relevant.
Okay.
What is your go-to karaoke song?
Oh, my go-to. Okay, so I never do karaoke. Ever. Yeah, I never do. You never noticed? Every time we go out, you and Wesley, like, y'all sing, but I do not. I don't get up in there and sing. But I do have a go-to song.
Okay, what's your song?
That I would sing if I were ever called upon to do the karaoke's. And that's Budapest by George Ezra. Budapest.
Okay, I've never heard that song. Sing it.
Really?
Yeah, sing it.
My house in Budapest, my hidden treasure chest.
Oh, it's some
golden
indie
grand
fucking
piano.
song? Of course it is. Of course you'd choose an indie song to sing.
Wow.
It's a good song, but
It's a great song, and it's in my wheelhouse, which is why I would sing it.
that's true. This gonna sound real white girl of me.
I think I know what it is, because I think I've heard you sing it.
Well, it's Eminem.
Oh, no, never mind. Is it?
It's Just Lose It. It's Just Lose It. Just Lose It by Eminem is my go-to. I know all the words. I can rap it backwards and forwards. Probably not backwards, just forwards. But that's real white girl of me because I know for a fact that every college girl probably knows the words to that song.
Are you ready for my icebreaker then?
Yes.
So mine is relevant to the book that I chose and one of the characters in the book, but it's not really relevant to discrimination.
Okay.
People do crazy, ridiculous things to fit in.
Yes.
And in the book that I chose, one of the characters goes through a grueling several-hour process every day to make herself kind of look a little bit more like the accepted socialite.
Okay.
So my question for you is there anything that you've ever done that looking back is just ridiculous or embarrassing that like why would you do that to your body just to make yourself look like, not to get too deep, but is there anything I can go first to set an example if that's
Yeah, cuz I've never really done anything to fit in.
you always
like-
been an outcast?
I guess so. I will admit I do get eyelash extensions. Shout out Angela, you the best girl. And she also microbladed my eyebrows. But I did those things for me because I like those things. They make me feel good about myself.
Okay.
I've gotten tattoos, but they've all been tattoos that have deep meaning to me.
You're not getting tattoos to fit in with any sort of
No.
group or to impress somebody is kind of what I'm okay. Okay. I can tell you when I first went away to college, I got my ears pierced, and I like a good ear piercing as much as the next person. I did it specifically for one reason, to fit in with my new group, because I had just recently came out, and it was one of those things that it was like, well, you know, gay men have pierced ears, so I need to go get my ears pierced.
I just thought of one.
Okay.
So I wear glasses, you know this.
Yes.
I didn't start wearing contacts until my senior year of high school. I didn't have any desire to get contacts because I didn't think that they were important, but I got made fun of a lot for my glasses.
Look at that 4 eyes over there. Am I
mean,
right?
pretty much, which is dumb, but
It is stupid.
it's true. I also got made fun of a lot for my freckles.
Yeah.
And so I tried really hard to cover them up. And then now everybody and their fucking brother's going out and getting tattooed freckles.
Yeah.
Like go through the hell that I went through in middle school with everyone making fun of my damn freckles.
Yeah, I was a very freckly child as well. And I wore glasses, and I had gotten contacts, and I had begged my mom to get contacts for me, and I never wore them because they irritated the living hell out of my eyes. Okay, I think that's it for the icebreaker round. So let's get into the coin flip. Listeners, this is where we flip the coin to determine
The coin.
who gets to go first. And Cobi always fucking wins. Not today, Satan. That's what I say.
Okay.
Hands together, living like a prayer. Not today.
Whoa, we're halfway there.
Yeah.
Do you want the Cobi or Cory side?
What side is it on now? Right now.
Right now it's on the Cory side.
I want the Cory side.
You did it!
Yay!
Yay! Comicitos, you did it!
Statistics. Woo!
That's
Oh,
an
yes.
app, by the way, so it's like really easy to determine who's gonna get it if you just go based on what the thing is. So yeah,
You know,
you had a 50-50 chance.
I did have, well, actually, that's why I said statistics. Technically, not really. It's more likely to land on the same side that is already facing up when you first flip it, apparently. Don't come at me, I might be wrong. But that's what I had read, so that's why I chose my face, because that was the face that was on the top. Okay, so my book.
Oh, wait. I'm sorry. By the way, just another fly. I got it wrong last week. It's not Forbidden Love by Tabitha Suzuma. It's just Forbidden by Tabitha Suzuma. So
Oh, yeah, I'm sure people are yelling at you for that.
please don't come for me. I'm so sorry, Tabitha.
It's okay. You corrected yourself.
Okay, I wanted to correct myself before we moved forward.
Yes. All right. So my book. Oh my God. So excited. Okay. Ever since literally last year when we decided to do an episode on discrimination, I knew I was going to do this book.
Okay.
I knew I had picked this book in my mind literally day one. I was like, absolutely no other book to choose. Because I've been personally wanting to read it for like the longest time. I underestimated the length of it. It's actually And for me, it's very long. It's over 500 pages, and I was actually shocked by that. So it is The Help by Catherine Stockett.
Bitch, I love that book.
You've read the book?
I've read the book. I've watched the movie. I love both the book and the movie.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Minnie, my spirit animal girl.
Yeah.
Ooh, Emma Stone. Oh God, I'm so excited.
Everything about
I'm
that.
so excited.
So,
I'm upset. You win. I don't even need to go. You already win.
I have been wanting to cover this book forever, and I'm so happy that I got a chance to because, Lord, this book was so good.
It's a lot.
It was so good, though. So a little bit about the author. Catherine Stockett was born in Jackson, Mississippi in 1969. And I saw this in an article with the Atlanta magazine saying that she had received over 60 rejection letters before finally landing a publisher, which happened to be Penguin Books for this. This is the only novel that she's written, and it was inspired by her own time with their family maid as she was growing up, and their family's maid's name was Dimitri. So let's get into it.
I'm excited.
I do want to say, like you had said, you prefaced at the beginning of this episode, it's not about us.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how we feel. I just want to highlight this incredible work of fiction that happens to deal with a very touchy topic, and that is discrimination in the Deep South in 1960s at the beginning of the Civil Rights Movement. So the book spans 2 years, and it follows 3 women: Aibileen, who is a housemaid; Minnie, who is also a housemaid; and Miss Skeeter. And Miss Skeeter is a white woman. She's a socialite who had just graduated from college and had moved back home hoping to advance a career in journalism. The book starts in 1962. Aibileen is taking care of her 17th white baby, May Mobley. And May Mobley is nothing like her mama. She's chubby, where her mom is thin. She is kind-hearted, where her mom is kind of cold and aloof. And Miss Elizabeth Leafolt, who is May Mobley's mom, has the baby blues, which is, postpartum is actually a very big thing. So Aibileen, at the beginning, talks about her son Treelor, who had died at age 24 after losing his footing and being crushed by a truck. He was not so much rushed, but just taken to the Black Hospital.
Didn't they take him in the back of a truck?
Yeah, they had thrown his body in the back of a truck and dropped him in front of the colored hospital. And Treelor died before Aibileen got a chance to even say goodbye to him. It's very sad. And when that happened, the world went black to her, and she was very accepting of the way things were for colored folk in the South, and she was not so accepting after that. A bitter seed was planted in her. Now, the book starts with Bridge Club, and Bridge Club is just something that these white socialite women got together to do, and it was Miss Skeeter, Hilly Holbrook, Elizabeth, and Hilly's mother, Miss Walters, who's elderly. Now, they all get together, and Hilly is trying to push the Home Help Sanitation Initiative. Do you remember that?
Yep.
From that?
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God.
Oof.
I was livid reading what it detailed. But basically, she is trying to push that all houses get a separate colored bathroom installed essentially outside
their maids.
for the help,
Yeah.
because they carry different diseases, quote unquote. It's nasty.
Which is untrue in every sense of the word.
Oh yeah,
There's no disease that actually can live on a toilet seat. Just fly.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Anyway, so Skeeter, who's she's a little bit more educated than the other women. She's a little bit more unaccepting of the way things are. She just turns to Hilly and is like, we ought to just build you a bathroom outside, kind of see how you like it. And of course, Hilly doesn't take to that, but they're still best friends, so they move forward.
She don't take kindly to that?
Yeah, she don't take kindly to that.
I'm surprised you're not talking in your accent
No,
for this.
I thought about it. I did think about...
but a Texas accent is much different than the deep south. Anyway, I'm sorry. Sidetracked.
Also, this is a much different time after they play bridge, which I don't know how to play bridge. It's a card game. That's all I know.
I don't even think they actually play bridge. I think
Mostly
they just gossip.
talk. No, they do play bridge because they weave it into their conversation where they're
Can we
like,
play like a goldfish club? Like we just play goldfish. Goldfish. It's go fish. I said goldfish like the snack that smiles back.
So Aibileen is very untrusting of course, of all white women, but she's also untrusting of Skeeter. And Skeeter, who is still in the house after they're done playing bridge while the other ladies are outside, asks Aibileen just point blank, like, if she wishes things would change. And of course, Aibileen, she doesn't want to answer that. Like, she's a colored maid in Mississippi and Jackson.
She's like, this is a trap.
Exactly.
I ain't gonna answer shit.
She felt trapped. After Aibileen's shift that day, she gets on a bus, and Minnie, who's her best friend, Minnie Jackson, is joking about the white woman that she serves, and her name is Miss Walters, so Hilly Holbrook's mother. And she's joking about Miss Walters, but she doesn't like it if anybody else talks about her because she owned the rights, because that's her white woman. So nobody else can talk shit about.
I love Minnie. She's my favorite.
Yeah. Minnie later calls Aibileen and says that Hilly, she's panicking. She says that Hilly is putting Miss Walters, her mother, in a nursing home. And she's spreading lies about Minnie, saying that she's a thief so that no one can hire her, so that she can come in and dock Minnie's pay and hire Minnie because Minnie's the best cook in all of Jackson. So Hilly wants Minnie, her mother's maid. So Elizabeth Leafold leaves, and they have started constructing the bathroom for Aibileen. And one of the workers, who happens to be a colored man, comes up and is, asking for a glass of water. And of course, Aibileen gives him one, but she makes sure to give it to him in a paper cup, not glass, because she knows that, Miss Leafold won't like that. And the man asks, is there like anywhere I can do my business? I need to go to the restroom. And they both think on it, and it's kind of ironic how they're building a colored bathroom and there's bathrooms in the house, but there's nowhere for him to actually go. And so she has to tell him he has to do his business in the bushes. And I wanted to include that because I thought that was just, really
really ironic.
Yeah. Celia Foote, who is new to town, she's another white socialite. She's from Sugar Ditch. She calls while Miss Leafold is still out, and she asks about the benefit that the Ladies Junior League of Jackson, Mississippi is putting together.
Isn't that the character that Jessica Chastain plays?
Yes, and she's electrifying in that performance.
I love her in that performance.
Yes, effervescent.
Celia
Foote also asks about help because she is now staying on her husband's plantation, the Foote plantation, and she doesn't have any maids. And Aibileen, knowing that Minnie needs, a job now because Miss Walters got put in a nursing home, Aibileen lies and pretends like Miss Leafold's in the other room and is calling out and is saying like, "Oh yeah, tell her to hire that Minnie girl or that Minnie lady." And so she suggests Minnie. All right, so that was all through Aibileen's perspective. So now we're going to jump to Minnie as she is getting hired by Celia. She goes to the Foote plantation, and she's very thrown off by Celia's character. She doesn't seem like the other ladies in town. She doesn't seem as put together. She's covered in flour because she's trying to bake a cake that fails drastically. And she's barefoot in her own home, which Minnie thinks is trashy. And I'm like, I'm barefoot in my home all the time.
All day, every day.
All day, every day. Minnie flashes back to the first white lady she ever served at 14 years old. And she talks about the rules that her mom had told her before her first day. And rule number 1 is the white lady is not your friend. So you don't complain to them. They don't complain to you. You don't listen to them. They don't listen to you. They're not your friend. Number 2, don't get caught using their toilet because they will freak. Number 3, use a different tasting spoon when you're tasting the food that you're making for them. Because if you use the same spoon in the same pot, you got to throw it out. Rule number 4, use the same plate, cup, and utensils and put it in a special place in the cupboard and don't use anything else. Number 5, eat in the kitchen. Number 6, don't hit their children because they want to do their own spanking. And number 7, no sass mouthing. So don't talk back to them. And on day 1, Minnie was fired from her first job because she was complaining about the white lady wanting her to hand wash the clothes, then use the washing machine.
That makes no damn sense.
So,
oh my God.
Some time goes by. She's working for Celia. Things are really weird. Miss Celia is just kind of a very odd character to her. And she doesn't understand why Miss Celia never leaves the house. She's always laid up in bed, or she's always in the house, but she's always so happy and cheery, and, they're doing cooking lessons because she's trying. And I guess I should mention, Johnny Foot does not know that his wife hired a maid, and they're keeping it secret from him. Mm-hmm. And Minnie is freaking out because she's like, he's going to come home and shoot me. Like, he's going to see a black woman in his kitchen. He's going to shoot me. And Celia is like, I'll tell him right before Christmas. Like, I'm not going to tell him. So, like, months go by, and Johnny Foot doesn't know that there is a maid cleaning the house and cooking the food that he's eating at night. Now, let's talk about Skeeter. Skeeter was born Eugenia Phelan, and she was nicknamed Skeeter by her brother because when she was born, she was long and spindly, and she looked like a mosquito. And honestly, I gotta say, Eugenia is like the most Southern Belle name, but also the worst name you can give somebody. No wonder she goes by Skeeter. Her mom, Charlotte Phelan, is desperate to get her married. And at age 13, because Eugenia's not that attractive by normal means, someone at age 13 calls her ugly for the first time. And her maid, Constantine, who she's extremely close with, consoled her and said that ugliness is what's on the inside. Skeeter had been told her whole life what to believe, and in that moment she realized that she had a choice for herself what to believe. And I think that right there is just like with her maid, like that was the start of her coming to realize that life is not black and white. Like there is
literally and figuratively.
Yes, exactly. While Skeeter was away at college, her and Constantine would always write and catch up with one another. And the last letter she ever received by Constantine said that she had a surprise waiting for her. And after she graduated and returned home, Constantine was gone. And they had another maid named Pascagoula. And her mother told her that Constantine had quit them and moved to Chicago. And there was no goodbye. So, of course, Skeeter doesn't fully believe this. She's thinking, like, what the hell? Like, why didn't she write me? Skeeter gets a letter from Harper & Row Publishing in New York, and she had applied to be a journalist for them right out of college with no experience, and the editor, Elaine Stein, told her that because she had the gall to apply for a position with no experience, that's why she was writing a personal letter back to her and said, write about what bothers you, and get some experience. And so Skeeter gets a job at the Jackson Journal, and she's writing for the Miss Myrna column, which is basically a cleaning advice column. And against her better judgment, she tells her mother, and Charlotte Phelan wastes no time telling her daughter that it's ironic that her, of all people, is going to be giving advice on how to keep house. Because she doesn't have no man, she doesn't have no house, no children. So Skeeter, after getting this job for the Jackson Journal, goes to Abilene, her friend Elizabeth Lee Folt's maid, to ask for advice. Abilene tells Skeeter that she thinks Constantine was fired because of her daughter, which is also shocking to Skeeter because she didn't know that Constantine had a daughter. She knew that Constantine was of mixed race. She had a black mother and a white father who apparently, according to her, loved her very much, which is good. It's, didn't go the route that I was afraid it would. So she did have loving parents. Skeeter receives another letter from Miss Stein at Harper & Row, telling her not to waste her time on trivial topics. And at this moment, Skeeter's upstairs in her room, and their new maid Pascagoula is knocking at the door, and she looks at the black and white photograph on the back of a book, and she gets her idea that she's going to write a book from the perspective of the help. Now, let's go back to Abilene. She reminisces about a boy who she raised, who she had told one time that she was colored because she drank too much coffee. and apparently she ran into the boy when he had turned into a man. He was older, and he gave her a hug, and apparently had said that, he still doesn't drink coffee. She teaches May Mobley how to go to the restroom, and May Mobley, because kids learn best from watching their own parents, and Elizabeth Leafolt will not go in front of her own child. May Mobley's like, you do it. You go to the restroom. And she can't go in the house, so she has to go to the colored bathroom. So she shows May Mobley how to use the restroom using her bathroom outside. And May Mobley from then on gets in trouble because she's using the colored bathroom, and Miss Leafolt catches her and says that it's diseased and dirty and she can't use that bathroom. That's not for her.
God, that makes me so mad.
Yeah.
I was like, teach your own damn kid how to use the bathroom then.
Yeah. Abilene, around Thanksgiving, goes to the Jitney, which is a grocery store. She goes home after this and she finds Skeeter on her porch, and Skeeter asks her to help with the book. She wants to write this book. And she's like, I will not help you. I might as well burn my own house down. Like, they're going to come for me. And even though Skeeter's reassuring her, like, no, we're going to change the names and everything, she's like, no, not going to happen. Unbeknownst to Abilene, though, Skeeter has already written to Elaine Stein saying that she had already gotten approval to interview. So Skeeter's kind of stuck. She's like, I need to find a maid. And Abilene, since I already have it in with her with the Miss Myrna column, she's my in. So she takes money to Abilene, and she says that it's for her help with the advice column, but Abilene sees right through it and is like, no, this is a bribe. And she's like, I'm not going to accept it. Like, you need to take this money and leave, because if Elizabeth Leafolt sees you handing me money, we're going to be in trouble. Mm-hmm. So after that, some time later, Skeeter goes on a double date with Hilly and her husband, William Holbrook. And she's with this guy named Stewart, who she had been set up with by Hilly. And while they're at the restaurant, Celia Foote comes in, and she's with Johnny Foote. And Johnny Foote and Hilly used to be together, but Hilly doesn't see Johnny, but Stewart, it has eyes only for Celia because she dresses very provocatively for that time. Very tight-fitting clothes, cleavage, all that. And, of course, Skeeter notices that, he's staring at this, bimbo kind of. After the awful date, Abilene calls and asks Skeeter what if she doesn't like what she has to say. So Minnie, back right before she had gotten her job with Celia Foote, she had done something that she called the terrible awful. And she will not tell anybody what it was. She will not say what it was to a single person. But she's in the kitchen teaching Celia how to cook, and they're going to make a caramel cake. And Celia asks, can you make a chocolate pie instead, like what's in the magazine? And Minnie's like, no, I will not.
Absolutely
not. Never again. One day, Celia is gone, and Johnny had come home to surprise her. And Minnie is there all by herself.
Oh, gosh.
She doesn't know that Johnny's coming to surprise Celia. She didn't know that Celia was going to be gone that day. And Minnie's in the master bedroom gathering dirty clothes in a sack, and she turns around and there's Johnny, and he's swinging an axe in his hand.
Oh, God. Shit.
Yeah. But it turns out, like, she's of course eyeing the axe, and she's trying to think of a getaway, and she's like, no, he's going to catch me. Like, I'm dead. And eventually he tells her that, don't tell Celia that he knows. He wants Celia to tell him herself. And he's been trying to get somebody out there to come spend time with Celia because she's so alone, and he's worried about her, and he doesn't have a problem with having a maid. Yeah, so it's really sweet, but it's now...
Then why'd he have the fucking axe?
Well, because somebody's in his house.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I was like...
Yeah. So anyway, I also think that he had come to cut down this tree, because there's this tree It's a mimosa tree that Celia hates. And every time they're in the kitchen cooking, she's always looking out at that tree and talking about how ugly it is. And she just wants to cut it down. So I think that that's kind of also why he had the axe, if I'm remembering correctly. After speaking with Harper and Rowe, with Elaine Stein, Elaine has told Skeeter that she wants her to write these interviews because at first she was kind of hesitant about like if it would sell, because equality between the whites and colored people is big news. With Martin Luther King and everything, the civil rights, it's very big news. So so that's why she's like, you need to write this, but you need to get a lot of different perspectives. And Minnie eventually agrees to help, but after each interview, she leaves in a huff. She just gets worked up talking about the white woman. Yeah.
I would too, damn.
Stuart, after that awful date, eventually does call on Skeeter again. And the date was awful because Stuart wasn't ready, but he wants to give it another shot with Skeeter. Now, through all of this, Skeeter is going to the library to find books for Aibileen because she's agreed to pick some up, or she's offered to pick some up for her because Aibileen can't go to the white library and the colored library doesn't have everything that the white does. Mm-hmm. And while she's there, she's looking for books about, colored people. She's looking for books that are catered to them. And she finds a book that's written by an ex-slave and the whole inside of it is torn out and vandalized. She also finds a booklet of Jim Crow laws, and she makes a little note saying, Jim Crow laws or Hilly's bathroom initiative, what's the difference? Later, she leaves her bag at the Ladies League headquarters, and Hilly takes it home. And of course, being a nosy little bitch, goes through it, and she finds the Jim Crow booklet and the note that says, what's the difference? So now Hilly's like seeing that Skeeter's on, like doing something, trying to be progressive, trying to desegregate all this nonsense. Well, nonsense to Hilly. Aibileen hears Hilly and Elizabeth Leafolt talking about this. And she's like, but she doesn't know if maybe they read the interviews that were also in that bag that were kind of tucked in a side pocket or not. They didn't know what all Hilly saw. But she remarks how the white lady's not like the white man. The white lady will never forget, and she ain't going to stop till you're dead. And
that is very true.
And Hilly is notorious for this. She's very vindictive, and she will go after you, your family, your husband, your kids, and make sure nobody ever hires you again. You never get a job. Basically, she'll ruin your life if you cross her. Mm-hmm. And one day, Aibileen has to stay late to watch after Mae Mobley, and because she had to stay late, she gets on the night bus, and the colored people are forced to get off because it's the day that Medgar Evers gets shot. And that's a huge moment. Do you remember that in the movie?
Yeah, in the movie. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that's a huge moment in the civil rights movement because it's like he was one of the higher up members of the NAACP, mm-hmm. and he got shot by the KKK. Now they refused to talk about the shooting at the Leafolt residence, and one day, Aibileen, because Mae Mobley's upset, she's like, I'm going to tell you a story. And she tells her a story of two little girls, one white and one colored, and how they say, well, you have a nose, I have a nose, you have arms, I have arms, we're not different at all, we're exactly the same. And from then on, Aibileen teaches Mae Mobley little stories, tells her little stories, teaches her little games. Like they have a sit-in game that they play where you can't move, you have to peacefully protest, and she's just teaching Mae Mobley all this stuff. Now, Minnie, while she's working at the foot plantation, notices that Celia keeps sneaking upstairs. Now, upstairs is just a bunch of abandoned bedrooms with, there's a crib up there, there's little beds. It's for a family, but there's only Celia and her husband, Johnny. And she notices that Celia keeps sneaking up there, so one day she sneaks up after her and sees Celia's drinking a bunch of small bottles that look like whiskey bottles. And she's like, no wonder there's no kids. She's always drunk. And she confronts her, and Celia fires her. And Minnie then goes to Abilene and is complaining about the white woman, because Minnie, that's what Minnie does. And Abilene boo-hoos her and is like, well, you remember, like, she's like, yeah, Celia's awful. You remember so-and-so when they did this to you? Oh, you remember so-and-so when they did this to you? Oh, you remember that when that happened? Oh, yeah, Celia's real bad, and it's kind of like everything she listed was awful. But what Celia does, like,
Celia actually treats her like a person.
she does.
She doesn't.
They eat together. She
Yeah.
pays her more than minimum wage. Like, she treats her very well. And so Minnie eventually goes back to the Foot Plantation to apologize and try and get her job back. And Celia's very sickly. And Celia locks herself in the bathroom for hours, and finally Minnie, demands to know, like, what's going on, as she goes inside, and unfortunately Celia has had a miscarriage, and she had been pregnant, and this was not the first time. This was the 5th time. And the bottles are not alcohol, they're a tonic that she's had shipped from a Native American preservation that just happens to just be molasses and water. So it's, nothing, but she's trying it because she is trying to get pregnant and keep the pregnancy. So Yulme eventually agrees to help with the project, but soon after is arrested. And Hilly is telling all the ladies that she stole a ring that had a giant ruby of immense value on it. And Skeeter happens to know that it was a garnet and it was not worth much. And the only reason Yulme stole it was because she was trying to get both of her twin boys into college, and she was short on just one of the tuitions, which is really sad. And Hilly's telling everybody, like, that's how it starts. Like, first they'll take your expired milk, and then they'll take your rings, like your jewelry. Like, what the fuck? So after that, after Yulme gets arrested, all of Abilene and Minnie's church circle decide to help. Skeeter and her parents go and meet Stuart and his parents, and they will not shut up about his ex-fiancée, Patricia. And Stuart gets really upset, eventually telling Skeeter that, the reason him and Patricia are not together is because she cheated on him, and he wants to take a break from Skeeter again. Like, he wants to clear his head. Yeah. And then Hilly confronts Skeeter about putting her home help sanitation initiative in the newsletter, because she is the editor of the Junior League newsletter. It's one of the things that Skeeter does. And Skeeter is typing it out, and she can't help but think, like, what would Constantine think? So a little bit of time passes. You know what's about to happen. A little bit of time passes. Abilene hears from Elizabeth, who has to rush over to Hilly's house, and she goes with May Mobley on a walk, and they see that in front of Hilly's house, all in her yard, are a bunch of toilets. And Skeeter had put in the newsletter to drop off your old toilets at her house, and that they were out of town, so just put them anywhere. So they're just strewn about. After this, Skeeter is essentially disowned. Hilly and Elizabeth say that it's all well and good around them, but there are some real racists in town. So, they're gonna basically punish her with losing their friendship to prove her point. And they're also going to go and tell Stuart, because her father is a politician and they want to save his career. So they're going to tell Stuart so he doesn't get back into bed with this equal rights activist. And one day at Bridge, Celia shows up, and Hilly she's asking about help at the benefit. She's like, hey, like I just came by, because she keeps trying to call them and they're not answering, and it's because Hilly doesn't like her. And so because Hilly doesn't like her, because she's married to her ex-boyfriend, nobody's allowed to talk to Celia. She's basically, she's an outcast. And they're like, well, yeah, I mean, we don't need any help from non-members for the benefit, but if you want to, buy some tickets and come, why don't we sell you 10 tickets for you, Johnny, and all your friends? It's like, oh, you fucking bitches.
Bitch.
And Celia's like, no, just the 2 is fine. So she just buys 2 tickets. The next morning, I believe it's the next morning, Minnie goes over to Celia Foote's to, start her day. And this is the biggest part that this was not in the fucking movie. Minnie had gotten hit by her husband Leroy the night before. So she had a gash on her eyebrow. You remember that, right?
That was in the movie?
I know.
Oh, okay.
I'm about to get to what wasn't in the movie.
Okay.
And of course, Celia notices, and she's trying to take care of her. And she's like, we need to call, like she says, let's call the police. And Minnie turns around and she's like, no, why would we do that? And Celia's like, there's a man in the yard. And so this is insane. And so they look outside, and there is a man who is buck naked, standing in the yard, pleasuring himself.
Oh my God.
In their yard. And he sees that they're watching him, and he starts coming towards the house.
Like,
and so
coming or coming?
No. I'm not going to say what I was about to say. No, he starts walking towards the house, and Minnie, she decides, okay, I'm going to go chase him out. So she grabs a broom and a knife, and she runs out there, and she's swinging at him, and she's missing.
Two of the best weapons ever, a broom and a knife.
Because the knife is really short, so she can't reach him. And the broom, she loses the knife, the broom gets broken, and this guy hits her. And Celia comes out and it starts threatening him and is like, you need to leave. But Celia's menacing. She's not like moving. She's not swinging wildly back and forth like Minnie was. Like, she's just there. And as soon as the guy turns towards Minnie, who is on the ground and is starting to get up, Celia comes out of nowhere with a fire poker and starts beating his ass. And the whole time he had been like, Minnie had been chasing him. He kept saying like, you want a piece of this pecker pie? It's just like, and but yeah, so Celia like just keeps beating him and almost kills him. And Minnie thinks it's strange that Celia would cross like such a line for her.
That's that sugar ditch that came out of her.
Yes, it is. Now, Celia, over the next few weeks, is worrying about this benefit that she had just bought the 2 tickets for, and she wants to make a good impression. And Minnie tells her, like, hey, well, why don't you reach out to Skeeter? Because, you need a friend. Mm-hmm. And Minnie happens to know that Skeeter's a good woman. And Celia's like, no, none of the other ladies like her. Like, I don't want to be seen with her because nobody else likes her.
Bitch, nobody likes you neither.
And then she realizes exactly.
Oh, okay.
And she realizes that she was a hypocrite. And Minnie admits that the reason the ladies don't like her is because Hilly and Johnny used to date. And so Celia's like, okay, well then at the benefit, I'm just going to set everything straight. I'm just going to tell, Hilly everything, and that like I didn't, Johnny didn't cheat on her with me. But she makes a mistake. She decides to dress like what Minnie describes as a jukebox hussy. And she dresses in a very tight-fitting hot pink dress with like cleavage and, yes. So they go to the benefit. People can't stop staring at Celia. They avoid her like the plague. And people also ignore Skeeter as well. But Skeeter is kind of just bored of it all, but she sees Celia and she's like, I'm gonna pay attention to her because that looks interesting. And so Celia, during Hilly's speech, Hilly thanks the anonymous donor of all of the toilets because they had been repurposed for her bathroom initiative, and they used those toilets and installed them
this sly
in
bitch.
Colored bathrooms.
This sly, clever bitch.
These used toilets from a junkyard, by the way.
God.
Yeah. And she thinks like, oh, I wish the anonymous donor would come forth, and Skeeter is unresponsive. Like, she doesn't say anything, but they all know like it was her. And after that, there's the baked goods raffle, and Hilly has won Minnie's famous chocolate pie. And she's like very confused. She's like, I didn't bid on anything. Like, and Minnie had made this pie for the benefit because it's very popular. And Hilly is just staring Minnie down because she's like, because of the terrible, awful thing that Minnie will not say what it is to anybody. Celia finally catches up to Hilly after that. And when Hilly tries to pull away, her sleeve gets torn off. And Hilly accuses Celia of lying about Johnny and everything. And also she accuses her of signing her up for the pie. And Celia is very confused. She doesn't know what's going on. And after that, for a whole week, she won't get out of bed. And Minnie notices that there's a letter that it's from Hilly, and it says that for the damages to the dress, Celia can just cut a check to the Ladies' League. And that also she cannot attend any more functions. She has been blacklisted. So the listeners can't see your looks.
I know, I'm
Come
sorry.
on.
It's just this bitch. Oh my God.
Yeah. And so finally Minnie's like, okay, I'm just going to tell her. So she tells her about the Terrible Awful.
Yes.
Now,
Yes.
do you want to tell the listeners what the Terrible Awful is?
No, I
or
want
do you
you to tell it.
Okay. So essentially, after Minnie found out that Hilly was spreading lies about her being a thief, she decides to, she tells Hilly, eat my shit. And then she goes home.
My shit.
Yes. And then she goes home and she decides to bake a chocolate pie. And she takes it back to Hilly's. And Hilly thinks it's a peace offering. And she's like, well, you know, if I hire you now, I'm just going to hire you at $0 an hour, you know, because of how you treated me. And she thinks it's a peace offering. And so she eats it. She eats 2 slices. And then it comes out that Minnie had actually put her shit in the pie and Hilly had eaten her shit. And of course, Hilly did not go to the police because she didn't want people to know that she ate a black woman's shit. And she didn't want anybody to know.
Pie.
Yeah.
It was a butt chocolate pie.
Yeah. So a few days after that, Celia's starting to act more normal, you know, more
For her.
herself. Good for her. And it has started to rain. And Minnie, even though she says not to, she ignores Minnie and she goes outside, grabs the axe, and she cuts down that tree herself.
Damn, girl.
And Minnie, who's like watching her out the window, looks down and sees a check for $200, but it's made out to Slice Hilly, which is just great.
I forgot about that part.
Yeah.
Juice Slice Hilly.
Yeah. So then on December 2nd, Elaine Stein with Harper and Row has moved the deadline for the book to the 21st instead of after the new year. So essentially, Skeeter's like, shit, I have 2 weeks to finish this book and mail it because otherwise it's not going to get read and they're not going to publish it. That night, Skeeter arrives home to find Stuart and he wants her back again. He's done some soul searching. He wants his girl back.
Oh my God.
So Skeeter's like, okay, whatever. And he's like, okay, I'm going out of town for a few days, but I'll be back. And
The fuck?
Yeah. And because he works away. On her way back in, Skeeter's mother, who's out on the porch, and I don't think I mentioned this, she has cancer, and so she's getting weaker. She looks up and she tells Skeeter, don't let that man cheapen you. And it was a very touching thing for her mother to say.
Which is interesting because in the movie, Stuart was very attentive. He was actually a really cool guy.
Yeah, but
In the movie.
a lot of the story with Stuart is left out of the movie.
Yeah.
So finally, because Skeeter needs to include something personal in her book, Abeline tells her what happened with Constantine. She had put her daughter up for adoption because her daughter had come out very pale-skinned when she was born, and it was because of Constantine's white father. And so she had put her daughter up for adoption, and in later years, they had gotten reacquainted, and her daughter came to visit. And during one of Charlotte Phelan, Skeeter's mother, one of her meetings with the Daughters of the Revolution or something like that, DAR, Lulabelle, that's Constantine's daughter's name, was mingling with all the ladies, pretending like she was a white woman because she had light skin. And because of this, Constantine was fired. So once the book is completed, they decide to add the Terrible Awful that Minnie did for insurance, because they're like, well, if people in Jackson read it, if Hilly reads it, she's going to claim it's not Jackson because she doesn't want anybody to know about that.
Which is smart.
Yes, it is smart. So they've mailed the book. Weeks go by. New Year's passes. Skeeter's mom gets sicker. And Stuart and Skeeter are going steady. And on an evening after a dinner date, Stuart proposes to Skeeter.
Just out of the blue.
Well, they've been together off and on for almost 2 years now.
But still, it's off and on.
So Skeeter decides, like, well, if we're gonna be engaged, then I need to tell him. So she tells him about the book, and he says, "Things are fine. Why are you going and stirring up trouble?" And he walks out the door.
Good.
Yeah, good, but still, I mean, it's heartbreaking for her. On January 17th, she finally gets news that Harper and Row wants to publish their book. Now, later in August, so several months later, or the day before the book publishes, May Mobley comes home from preschool because she's now attending preschool, and she asks Aibileen why she's colored. And she tells her that her teacher has told them that coloreds are not allowed in their school because they're not smart enough. And Aibileen gets down on the ground and she asks May Mobley, she's like, "Do you think I'm dumb?" And May Mobley's like, "No." And she's like, "Well, the teacher isn't always right." And May Mobley hugs her and is like, "You're righter than the teacher."
No.
I know, it was really touching. The book publishes. There's no news. Nobody's buying any copies, anything like that. But Skeeter finds out that it's going to be reviewed on live television. In the midst of this, Minnie, who's pregnant again, and Aibileen go to a special church service where the whole congregation says that they'll acknowledge Aibileen only one time for her accomplishment because they don't want to risk anything. So they're going to give her one night of, praise and celebration. And they all sign a book and say, because you couldn't put your name in this, we all put ours. And they give her 2 copies, one for her and one for the white lady who they care for like their own because she heard their stories. So when the book is reviewed, the presenter makes a joke that it could be about Jackson, and all of a sudden, all the ladies want a copy. The bookstores sell out, and it is just like wildfire, the news of it. While they're waiting for the other shoe to drop, because they know something's coming, Minnie continues her work. And one morning she comes to the foot plantation, and Johnny's there with Celia. And Celia had told him everything about the babies because before she hadn't told him about all the miscarriages. And they thank Minnie and tell her that she's going to have her job for life as long as she wants it.
That's
because
so sweet.
Yeah. And for some reason now, Hilly is suddenly claiming that book is not about Jackson.
I wonder why.
Yeah. Skeeter, that night, goes to check the mail, and she gets a letter offering her a job for Harper and Row. She goes back to the house, and as she's walking up, Hilly drives up. She's bedraggled. She's not made up. She has a cold sore. She's a little bit more chubby than she was before. And Skeeter's mom comes out and is basically, it's not as a strong. It's not like the movie, sadly.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Because the movie, that was like one of the best parts. Yeah,
but she does say, she's like, "Oh, honey, no husband wants to see you like this." Her mom says that to Hilly, but then she's like, "Why don't you come by some other time? Like, you girls, turn off the lights when you're done." And she's like, "Why don't you come by some other time and we'll eat or something?" I don't know. I can't remember what she says. Minnie doesn't seem concerned as Aibileen also at this point. Aibileen realizes that the pie story, the terrible awful, wasn't to protect everyone. It was just to protect everybody else, not Minnie. Because Minnie knows that there's probably something that's going to happen to her. Yeah. But everybody else will be safe. The next day, Elizabeth had borrowed some silverware from Hilly, and Aibileen polishes it and returns it. And the day after that, Skeeter shows up on her door, and she says that she's about to leave for New York, but that she had pressed that the editor at the Jackson Journal give the Miss Myrna job to Aibileen, and he agreed. And he agreed to give her equal pay as well. So Aibileen will get the job with the Jackson Journal. The following morning, Aibileen gets a call from Minnie, and it turns out that Leroy, Minnie's husband and father of their 5 kids, got fired. Hilly had him fired because she knew, and Leroy had tried to kill Minnie because he had lost his job, and she escaped and she was going to stay with her sister. Afterwards, Aibileen goes to work at the Lee Foltz, and Hilly is there. And Hilly demands that, or doesn't demand, Hilly says that Aibileen stole their silver. And Aibileen's like, I didn't steal no silver. And Hilly's like, well, I'm sorry, but you can't work here anymore, pretty much. And Elizabeth is forced to fire Aibileen because Hilly wants her to. And Elizabeth has had no idea this whole time that one of the stories in that book was about how awful she is to her kids. Like, she just is so...
she's so deluded.
Yes. So that's it. That's the end. Aibileen goes off, and she's a little bit worried about her future, but she's going to start anew. And Catherine Stockett, the author, tells her own story with her family's maid. She talks about her Mississippi pride and her shame, and she tells the reader that she was worried she was going too far by writing the Black perspective, and that one thing is abundantly clear, and that is no white woman on the other end of that paycheck has or ever would understand what life was like for the colored help.
Mm-hmm. I forgot. I haven't read the book in like a couple years. Do they have the "you is kind, you is smart, you is important"?
Yes, they do.
It's my favorite.
Yeah. So my analysis, this is an outstanding book.
Yes.
I probably took so long just talking about it. I thought that the slang, like the colloquialisms, when it was Aibileen and Minnie's sections, they were bordering on kitschy. They're kind of
like too stereotypical.
Yes,
yeah.
Kind of. And this being written by a white woman, it's very... that kind of felt a little off for me. Couple favorite words that I had that I learned from this book. Kvetch, which is a person who complains. And Elaine Stein uses it when she's describing Aibileen's testimony in the book, saying that she doesn't kvetch too much. And then gentility, which is to be superior through manners and appearance, which these socialite white ladies of America think that they have gentility, think that they're superior, and they're not. Characters that I like the best and least, I loved Celia. I felt for her immensely.
Yeah.
Because this is written through Minnie's perspective, so this is Minnie on the outside seeing Celia, which is actually, I kind of liked that because it almost flipped the script on that, because the book is all about us looking in from the outside on the Black perspective, But I did love Celia. Aibileen is just the epitome of strong, of being a strong woman. And Leroy, Minnie's husband, the first half of the book, there's no mention of him being abusive. He actually seems like a pleasant person. And I was getting all ready to be like, well, he's completely different in the movie. And then halfway through the book, suddenly like they're talking about how it's common for him to beat her. But before then, there was no talk of it. It was a complete 180 for him. So the character himself, I think, got rewritten. I'm not going to lie. I think that halfway through, Catherine Stockett decided that she wanted that character to go a different route, or she wanted Minnie to go a different route, and to push her that way,
yeah.
She wrote her husband different. How did this book compare to the movie? Anna Camp's character, Jolene French, is only in it for like a split second. She's the one reviewing the book. There's no Nelson Ellis's character, Henry. There's some stuff taken out. There's no naked man story, or the fact that Celia is literally homebound and she really never leaves her house.
Yeah, in the movie they just make her seem like she's lonely.
She's just an outcast,
and she just doesn't have anywhere to go.
But in the book, she's actually like stuck at home. Yeah, and then like the story with Stuart and his family is very diminished.
Wasn't the author on set for the movie?
Yes, she was one of the extras, and she was one of the Ladies League members. The endings for both the movie and the book are both bittersweet, but the movie doesn't quite capture Aibileen's brief feeling of hopelessness when she's been fired. She talks about like, what is she going to do? Like, how, even with the Miss Myrna job, she can't afford, so, but I absolutely would recommend this book. Like, of course, duh. Like, of course I would. So, all right. So I've wasted a lot of time. It is now your turn to tell your story.
Okay.
Let's hear it for the boys.
Let's hear it for the boys.
There you go. I'm sure that's how it goes.
That was really off key. That was not the right key.
Okay. Tell me, what story did you do?
Okay. So my book is called Dear Martin.
Dear Martin.
By Nick Stone. Published in 2017.
Oh, recent.
Yeah, it's kind of recent. So this bio about Stone is from her website, nickstone.info. Nick Stone was born and raised in a suburb of Atlanta, Georgia, and the only thing she loves more than adventure is a good story about one. After graduating from Spelman College, she worked extensively in teen mentoring and lived in Israel for a few years before returning to the U.S. to write full-time.
Gotta say, I love that name on a woman. Nick.
It's N-I-C, no K.
I don't even care how it's
I know,
spelled.
but I like that it's N-I-C.
I just love that name, Nick, for a woman. That's
right. Growing up
sexy.
Growing up with a wide range of cultures, religions, and backgrounds, Stone strives to bring these diverse voices and stories to her work. Dear Martin was her first novel, and she had been shaken by the events of a series of true events and of the responses to these types of incidents.
Is this fiction or nonfiction?
The story is fiction. Okay. But it is based off of true events. Sorta, kinda. Okay. It's inspired by true events. Stone had started this project, Dear Martin, to examine current events through the lens of Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and his teachings. I also want to plug her social medias because she's really, really active on the social medias. Okay. So cool. You can find her on Twitter at GetNicked. That's GetNicced. And she's on Instagram at Nick, N-I-C. Okay. How old is she? Young. Like, I can show you a picture. She's, let me just say, girl, I haven't messaged you yet. I'm going to message you later. Nick, you're gorgeous. Holy shit. Like, I saw pictures of her and I was like, can I be her? She is probably one of the most gorgeous human beings. Hold on. Let me bring up her IG. Hold on. Okay. Oh, and she has 2 little boys. She's got 2 sons. Oh, I know. Oh, woman. And she loves to experiment with like different styles and everything. Woman, Nick, not only is your name gorgeous, you're gorgeous. Yeah, that's her husband and her kids. Wow. Girl, we totally trolling on your IG. Yeah, we are. Okay. But let me just say, you've got a gorgeous family. Holy shit. Okay. Moving on. Talk to you later, girl. To the story. Okay, to the story. So this is Dear Martin. So the story opens with Justice. It's spelled just like the word justice, but with a Y instead of an I. Okay. Which I think is really cute. He's a 17-year-old senior at a preparatory academy in Atlanta. The very first part is him getting to his drunk ex-girlfriend who's like in a parking lot. She's plastered, and her name is Milo. And she's half black, so she has like really, really light skin. Mm-hmm. And they're like off and on. And so he gets to her and he's like, let me get you home. Like, he's trying to be a good guy. And she starts to argue. So he takes her keys, like throws her over his shoulder to like, cause she's like pretty much unconscious at this point. And he gets her into her back seat and he's getting ready to close the door to like turn around and go drive. And he's dead sober when wee woo, wee woo, wee woo. Here come the pigs. Here come the cops. So Officer Tomas Castillo comes on up and immediately arrests Justice. Because doesn't read, like, yeah. Justice even remarks he doesn't even remember or hear being told his Miranda rights, just gets handcuffed. And Justice is sitting there like, I don't know what's going on. What do you mean? I'm not trying to attack her. Like, she's my girlfriend. Like, what the fuck? And Officer Castillo tells Justice that they had been following him for quite a bit and knew he was suspicious because he was walking around with his hoodie on. And Justice immediately is like, well, shit, I shouldn't have been doing that. Which, first of all, that's fucked. You should be able to wear whatever the hell you want. Yeah. That's racial profiling. But anyway, Justice like continually attempts to explain the situation because Officer Castillo accuses Justice of trying to mug Milo. Okay. Because she's got lighter skin.
So he just automatically assumes that she's white or something?
Yeah, he just automatically assumes that this black teenager is coming up on this white woman, like trying to steal her car and mug her and rape her and shit, when that was not the case at all, in any way, shape, or form.
Wow.
So he gets taken to the station. Milo's parents even show up to the station where he's in custody. Her parents, like, try to explain the situation, like, no, like, that's our daughter's boyfriend. Like, he was just trying to help her because she was drunk. And the police completely ignore the parents and keep Justice in custody. And it isn't until his friend Sarah Jane, whose nickname is SJ, she's a Jewish girl and has been Justice's debate partner for the past 2 years. Her mom, Mrs. Friedman, comes up. She's an attorney and starts like yelling at the police and is like, "You need to let him go. He didn't do anything wrong. You're not charging him with anything."
Yeah.
So they let him go.
And was that all happened at night?
Yeah, this all happened at night.
Okay.
Like, this all happened like in a matter of like 12 hours.
Oh, okay.
So because of this incident, Justice is prompted to start writing letters to Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. because he wants to try to live more like him, like morally, good. He wants to be a good person. He doesn't want anything bad to happen to him. So he says in his first letter, Justice talks about how he has never really thought about being in this type of situation, that because he's a good guy, it shouldn't matter that he's from a rough part of town.
Yep, that's true.
Because he's from a rough neighborhood, but he is staying in a dorm at a prep school that he like got a full scholarship to. So he
like Miles Morales.
Yeah.
Visions Academy.
Exactly. So after the incident with Justice and the getting arrested and shit, he goes to his friend Manny's house. Emmanuel Manny Rivers is the Prep Academy's basketball captain and just overall popular guy. His dad is the VP of a major financial corporation, and he is also African American. So he is the only other black guy that Jess goes to school with, essentially.
Wow.
It's at Manny's house that we find out that Manny's cousin, Quan Banks, has been arrested for killing a police officer. Quan is a year younger than Justice and has been in elementary school with him, but he had started to run with a not-so-great crowd after elementary school ended. And Quan Banks was arrested for the murder of Officer Tomas Castillo, the one that arrested Justice.
Shit. So that's like a day later, or how much time has passed?
It's like a day later. It's literally like the day after.
All right, well, I'm not upset about that.
So,
murder's not good. Just saying, murder ain't good, but fuck Castillo.
The day after that, Justice is on his way to a societal evolution class, which, it's a fucking prep school. If they have a societal evolution class.
Is it a Christian prep school?
No.
No?
This is just like a sociology class.
Oh, it's not about evolution.
No, it's just about sociology. And
What the fuck is that name?
I don't know. They call it Soc Evo.
Soc Evo. Man, that's Soc Evo.
That's Soc Evo. And that's taught by Dr. Jarius Doc Dre.
Ha! Dr. Dre.
Who is also the debate team advisor and is the, quote, only half black guy Just knows with a PhD.
Pretty huge dick. No.
Lol. Doc and actually, just like a sidebar, Doc is actually very light-skinned as well, and he has green eyes. Okay. So it's one of those things where, like, both Doc and Manny are both kind of on the light-skinned side, so it's Justice is darker than them.
It's easier for people to accept them in their societal evolution class.
Yes.
Okay. Gag.
So Doc, I know, right? So Doc begins class discussion about racial inequality, beginning with the Declaration of Independence. So kind of talking about, like, all men are created equal, but that doesn't include women, black people.
I pledge allegiance to the flag. Wait. No,
that's the Pledge of Allegiance. Okay. We hold these
that's-
truths to be self-evident. All men are created equal or whatever shit.
Oh, yeah, okay.
But that doesn't include black people, women, or Native American Indians. None of them are included. It's just white people. So he's kind of like, that's kind of where a lot of shit started. And so Jared Christensen, one of Manny's rich white friends, and his dad is like some hotshot lawyer or something, speaks up about how America has, and you're about to get real fucking angry, so just bottle it up.
Okay. You don't want me to react, or you do want me to react?
I don't want you to scream, because I don't want you to ruin the sound on this episode.
Okay. Well, that's
'Cause
already too late. You're already talking, so.
I was internally screaming at this because I was trying really hard not to wake Wesley up. So Jared speaks up about how America has, quote, reached full equality when it comes to race, and that, quote, anyone born here is a citizen born with full rights. There are people who claim certain injustices are race-related, but they're just being divisive. Jared argues that, quote, black people have the same opportunities as white people in this country if they're willing to work hard enough, and cites that Manny's parents are the perfect example.
Quan, where's that gun? Where's that gun, boy?
So SJ, Sarah Jane, says to him, like, after this long-winded argument that I do not want to go through right now because there's a lot to unpack in this book.
Okay.
She says, quote, I know you'd prefer to ignore this stuff because you benefit from it, but walking around pretending that inequality doesn't exist won't make it disappear.
Truth.
And she tells him that he and Manny are, quote, equal in pretty much every way apart from race, could commit the same crime, but it's almost guaranteed that Manny would receive a harsher punishment.
Yeah.
Which is 100% true.
100% true.
Later in the cafeteria, which they call it the senior lounge, but it's the fucking cafeteria.
Victorious had a senior lounge. No. Riverdale has a senior lounge.
Is it that room?
Yeah. That
they all hang out with the couches? That's a senior? Anyway, we're getting off track.
I think it's a lounge, yeah.
I don't know. Later in the cafeteria, Jess overhears Jared and Manny with their friends talking about the debate class. Jared not only threatens to get his daddy to get Doc fired because of this conversation in class, but he also says, quote, that he's sick of people suggesting that African Americans still have it so hard these days, and says that Manny's parents are, quote, totally proof that things are equal now. Do you need a minute?
Can I pop this boy? No, I don't need a minute. Just
Okay.
keep going. Please tell me something bad happens to him. No, not bad. Actually, I don't want anything bad. I want our boy Just to get the justice he deserves, and like just, I don't know.
But it gets much worse. Just so you know.
Well,
That's like scratching the surface.
I know. It's the beginning of the story.
Okay, so later on, Jared convinces Manny, Justice, and their other friends, Kyle, Tyler, and Blake, to dress as different stereotypes for Halloween and to go out together as a massive political statement about racial equality. So, Jus is the thug, complete with his exposed boxers, his grill made from tinfoil, and his thick gold chain.
Thank God that officer got popped.
I know, right?
If he saw him on the street, he'd... Okay, keep going.
Manny is the, quote, token black guy, wearing khakis, loafers, and a polo with a sweater tied around his shoulders. Jared is the yuppie / politician and is wearing a suit. Tyler is the surfer dude with board shorts and a tank top, because that's a race. That makes sense. Can you hear the sarcasm dripping?
Clearly, you've never been to California.
California.
Okay.
Okay, Kyle is the redneck, so he's like wearing flannel and like duckbill hat, cowboy boots, the whole nine.
Oh, I think I know that guy.
And Blake, he decides to dress like a Klansman, complete with his white hood and the little insignia, and he thinks that this is okay. And he even like tries to fist bump Justice, and Justice is like, why the fuck are you wearing this? Why?
Okay, move on.
Well, not 5 minutes after walking into a party, Blake gets busted in the fucking face.
Good. Yes.
Because a couple guys from
Yes.
Jess's, like, quote, rough neighborhood show up and accost the group for their costumes. And these boys are actually part of a gang called the Black Jihad, and we'll get more. We'll
Okay.
go back to them later. But yeah, Blake gets fucking busted. And he's like bleeding through his mask, and it's really funny.
Good.
So Jess's next letter to Dr. King is about his conversation with SJ that he has over the phone later that night about what happened with the whole getting punched in the face shit with Blake. And Jess discovers that he's starting to like SJ, but he's struggling with these feelings because his mother told him to never bring a white girl home. So he's battling between what he wants and what his mother wants. So he knows that his
Okay.
mother would be so disappointed in him and never accept SJ. But he's also like, but she real cute. Like,
Yeah.
why can't we be together? So shortly after the costume fiasco, Justice gets into Yale. We find out he gets into Yale, and
Are
it's
you
like this
kidding?
huge thing. Yeah.
That's awesome.
I know. So, of course, short-lived celebration, Jared gets his panties in a twist. And during Soch Evo class, Jared complains that Just only got into Yale because he's black.
And he fills that minority card.
Yeah.
Okay.
When Jared wasn't denied entry,
Waitlisted?
he was deferred.
That's waitlisted, right?
Yeah, so he was waitlisted. So, like, he was going to get in. Like, it wasn't...
Oh, but you know, in all these stories and movies and TV shows,
Yeah.
the preppy, no good white trash that they are, they always freak out when they get waitlisted.
Yeah, it's because Just got early admission. Like, that's literally the only reason why he's mad. Jared says that despite a whole argument led by SJ about how it's not... Because Jared goes into, like, this long-winded shit about how, like, he has higher test scores and, like, he, you know, has volunteered more at community events and all this shit. SJ is like, it's not about final test scores. It's about how you got there.
Yeah.
It's not about what you're like at the end.
Yeah, it's always about, like, do you have a story to tell? Like,
Yeah.
what is your story? Yeah.
But Jared says, despite all that, he's still going to question whether a minority student truly deserves to be where he is, wherever he goes.
I really don't like this kid.
Right?
Okay.
Jess's next letter to Dr. King talks about how he's struggling with everyone putting him down instead of lifting him up. He says, quote, "It's like I'm trying to climb a mountain, but I've got one fool trying to shove me down so I won't be on his level, and another fool tugging on his leg, trying to pull him to the ground he refuses to leave." And he tells Dr. King that he's feeling very defeated and that there's no one that wants him to succeed on either side. Like, no one in his old neighborhood wants him to succeed because they think that he's a sellout for, like, going to school with the white kids, and then the white kids
Will
treat him like
never-
shit.
yeah, they'll
and
never accept him. Yeah.
So he's just, like, really struggling right now.
It's understandable.
So we kind of fast forward through Christmas and New Year's because he's super busy preparing for a huge state debate tournament that Jess is doing with SJ.
Okay.
And they decide to do a presentation about how racial profiling is prevalent in the U.S. criminal justice system. Obviously, Jess is a little hesitant at first about this topic, but because he doesn't want to, like, pull the race card.
Yeah.
But it ends up being incredibly successful, and they win. So the next letter is about how Jess tried to kiss SJ after they're announced as the winners of the tournament, only for her to turn and walk away from him.
Oh God! Like she noticed he was trying to kiss her, or
Yeah.
she didn't. Oh.
Yeah, like they were like full on like, and she like pushed her face away and like walked out, and then was like, it was really, really great working with you for these last 2 years on debate team, and then like fucking leaves, and he doesn't hear from her for days.
Oh my God.
So Jess,
My boy, you deserve better.
I know, right? Jess is in a bit of a funk for a few days after that until Manny tries to get him out of it by getting him to go to Blake's birthday party. So he and Jess get a little pregame tipsy, as one does when they're going to a high school party.
Of course.
And when they get to Blake's party, Blake asks Manny and Just to wingman him to get a, quote, fine-ass black girl to sleep with him. He even calls them his N-words. I put like a series of ellipses.
Mm-hmm. I don't think there's enough ellipses in the world.
Yep. So, Just fucking uppercuts this fool. This is twice that he's gotten the shit beaten out of him.
Good.
And like Manny's trying to pull Just off of Blake, and Just is like accusing Manny of letting these pricks continually act like these hoity-toity racist people.
Yeah.
And Manny's not saying a damn thing about it. Like, he's just letting it happen. Just runs back to his dorm and passes out, and he wakes the next morning to Doc checking up on him in his dorm. Because Manny had called and told him the cliff notes of like what had happened the night before.
See, what happened was.
So they talk about Doc's experience with being the only black man in his school, and about like all the things that he had to face in going through graduate school, because he does have a doctorate, he does have a PhD.
Yeah.
And the next day, Jared and Manny are missing from Soc Evo class. Come to find out, Manny had beat the shit out of Jared in the coach's office after Manny was trying to quit basketball, because Jared had made a remark that Manny couldn't quit until, quote, massa had set him free.
Until what had set him free?
Massa. Like master, like the joke. Like massa.
Oh, no.
Which is wrong on every possible
level. Okay.
I don't know how this guy Jared.
See, the thing
get shot.
The thing that's so frustrating to me, and clearly we are very soapboxy this episode.
I'm not sorry.
Hashtag sorry, not sorry. There are people like this out there, and the thing is that they're young, they're still in high school. That they're not all there.
That doesn't make it okay.
No, it doesn't in any way, which then turns it around on their fucking parents, because the way they are acting and the way they treat, keep going.
Yep. So, after Manny like tells Just like, hey, I beat the shit out of Jared because he said some crazy shit. Like, you're completely right. Like, I was letting them walk all over me, and I'm tired of it. I'm not going to let them do that anymore. So they plan earlier in the week to have a Saturday of hiking. But Saturday morning comes, and Manny comes by to pick up Just, and he's upset and says, like, can we just drive around for a bit? Like, I'm kind of upset. Got some bad news this morning. Kind of just want to drive it off. Just is like, okay, cool. Mm-hmm. Well, I
think I know where this is going.
Turns out Manny had gotten a call from Jared's dad, because they're going to be pressing charges against Manny for assault, because Manny had beat the shit out of Jared.
Okay.
So they start driving, and they're blasting like some hard rap music. At a stoplight, this white dude in a Suburban looks mad about their loud music, but the boys pay no attention. They drive again, and they get to another stoplight, and the guy shouts from his car to shut down the music. Manny, being like, I'm not gonna, relent to anybody, this is my music, I can do whatever the hell I want. He turns up the music even more, just out of spite, but the white guy explodes. The guy pulls out a gun and shoots the two boys in the car. Manny doesn't make it, and Just had gotten a shot in his ribs and was left with a collapsed lung. The man who shot them was Officer Garrett Tyson, the partner of the late Officer Tomas Castillo. So they end part one with bang, bang, bang. Yeah. So part two starts 27 days after the altercation. It's after Manny's funeral. Jess goes over to Manny's parents' house, and they tell him that Quan Banks, Manny's cousin, wants to see him in jail. Jess decides to go to the youth detention center and see Quan, who tells him about his experiences being behind bars and how a 17-year-old rich white boy had stabbed his father 8 times, but got off on a simple assault after a doctor came in and said that it was just a sleepwalking episode. But this was his quote, second offense. And he was called a career criminal because he stole something. So he's in there for like a long time.
Yeah.
That don't make no sense to me, but okay.
None of it makes sense.
All right. Quan tells Jus to give this guy named Martel a call. Like, gives him his number. Martel is the head of the Black Jihad. They're essentially a gang.
Yeah.
And after his visit, Jus goes to school, and SJ runs into the Soc Evo classroom and shows him a newscast where they're showing off a picture of Jus in his Halloween costume. But everyone else in the picture is cropped out. And they're essentially saying that Jus has been living a double life and that he's really this thug, and that obviously Officer Tyson was well within his limits to shoot these poor boys because they were obviously gangbangers because of the way that this kid was dressing. But they cut out all of the context. They cut out the kid that was dressed as a fucking Klansman. So needless to say, Jess is like, I'm gonna go ahead and go see these Black Jihad people. Mm-hmm. They accuse Justice of leading a double life, and that because Manny was related to Quan, who had killed Tyson's partner, this must have been a way to get Quan out of jail. Like, trying to get rid of the, quote, witness, because Tyson was there when Castillo got shot. Because Tyson even told the police that he had seen the boys point a gun at him. Just starts to panic because he obviously can't believe that they defame his character like this, and that these people are believing someone else but not listening to him or his statements. He's like, I didn't have a gun. There's no evidence to support I had a fucking gun. Just because somebody's related to somebody and it's coincidental has nothing to do with this.
Yeah, but they're always going to listen to the white man.
Exactly. So then he decides, like, I'm going to go to Martel and the Black Jihads because he just can't see why he should try to do the good and moral thing anymore if it's not doing anything to help him. So he meets up with Martel, who immediately tries to recruit him and is like, you know, are you ready to strike back? Are you ready to, you know, take power? And the whole time Jess is like, I don't know. This don't seem like me. This don't seem like something that Manny would want me to do. And while they're talking, one of Martel's lackeys comes inside to show Jess a new article that says that Blake had painted himself as a, quote, former victim of Justice's because Justice punched him in the face.
Yeah, and that was deserved. 100%.
Yeah, but Blake is making it seem like, well, he just like came into my house on my birthday and punched me in the fucking face and left. So Just immediately leaves Martel because he knows now that he doesn't want to strike back or anything and that this life is not for him.
That's good. That's good. I mean, you can understand though why there's, you know, so much rage that you would want to strike back. Like it's palpable.
So Just immediately heads straight for SJ's house, where he admits to SJ that he tried to join a gang today. He's like, so I tried to join a gang. I can't fucking talk. Mm-hmm. And he starts to talk about all of his fears and starts crying in her arms. That's really cute. And then after he finishes, he and SJ confess that they're in like for each other.
Aww.
They like each
other.
other.
So then why did she turn away from him?
Because she wasn't sure if he was still seeing Milo, whatever her name is.
Has she come back into this at all?
A little bit, but he doesn't date her anymore.
Okay. Well, they were off and on to begin with.
They were off and on to begin with, but then he's like, I don't have time for this. I like this girl SJ instead. She's super cute.
Good.
So they're in like for each other, and they admit how stupid they both were for being so avoidant of each other. And then I put a little heart emoji because they're so cute. So at his high school graduation, Just gets approached by detectives to be questioned about a fire that had been started at the Tysons' house. Evidently, 3 suspects were caught, and 2 had named Just as an accomplice. These were guys from the Black Jihad. But the third one was like, I don't even know who you're talking about. But Just has an airtight alibi, so nothing comes of it, because he's like, well, I was... At first, his mom was like, well, he was with me. And
Yeah.
Jess was like, no, I wasn't. I was with my girlfriend and her parents because we were celebrating her parents' wedding anniversary. And his mom is like, fucking girlfriend? Who? What girlfriend are you talking about? And then he's like, I'm dating SJ. And she's like, I'm disappointed in you, son.
I got
He literally is like, I don't understand why you don't like her. She encourages me to be a better man. And she's like, no, the only person that can make you a better man is yourself. Like, I understand that she's trying to instill self-confidence in him. But then she's like, there's a lot of really nice, smart black girls out there that you could definitely be with. And he's like, but I don't want them. I want SJ.
Yeah.
Like, she's nice to me. She's been the only one to be supportive of me throughout this whole bullshit.
Yeah.
Like, I don't understand why you can't just accept
I mean,
her.
parents be like that, though.
And, yeah. Well, his mom is just like, well, I'm never going to accept her, but, you know, you do you.
You know.
So, now we head to the courtroom, where Jess is being questioned about his involvement with the Black Jihad, because this is Tyson's trial.
Oh, okay.
Because
okay.
Tyson had been arrested.
Yes,
Yeah.
okay. So he's a witness.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's a witness. Jess struggles to get his answers out in between the accusatory questions from the DA, because the DA brings up the Halloween costume, Jess hitting Blake, Manny hitting Jared, about his arrest, his quote arrest for helping out his drunk girlfriend,
Yeah.
and Manny's cousin Quan, and like that whole coincidence.
Yeah.
And because I don't know why Jess would do this, it was really dumb, but he admits to going to the Black Jihad, like literal days before the Tyson's house was set on fire.
Oh boy, that's such a conscience.
I know. Like, he's struggling the whole time because he's like, I want to tell the truth, but then the truth keeps getting bent in a wonk-ass way.
Yeah.
Like, this DA is coming for him.
Yeah.
And, like, it's really unfortunate because I know what it's like to be in that position. I've had to do that myself, not for a situation anywhere near this. I'll go into it at a later date, maybe someday. But I've been in this position where I've had to be on a witness stand, and I've been torn apart by the defense attorney because they have to.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
they don't have to. They could go find themselves a different job, but
Well, no, it is part of their job, though.
No, I
like,
know.
it's their
I
job.
know it is.
But
I know.
I mean, it's really difficult because everything that you say,
it's a Shark Tank. I mean,
Yeah. everything that you say is completely bent in the wrong direction.
they don't let you get your answers out.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
that's like what they're trained to do, unfortunately. Like,
Yeah.
the
It's all about perception.
the DA in my particular case, my particular situation, had actually come and apologized to me. He was like, this was
wow.
solely my job. Please don't ever think that I accused you of these things in any way. He was actually really nice. So shout out you. So after all of this, the jury had found Tyson to be guilty on 3 of 4 charges and was convicted of 2 misdemeanors, disorderly conduct and discharge of a pistol near a highway, and of of aggravated assault. The jury had been unable to reach a consensus on regarding the felony murder charge, and a mistrial was declared
For the whole thing.
for the whole thing. But luckily, Tyson is like still in custody. It's not the whole thing. It's just the felony murder charge.
Okay, so he's still convicted of the other charges.
Yeah, he's still convicted
Okay.
of the 2 misdemeanor charges and of the aggravated assault, but it's
Okay.
the murder charge that's been called as a mistrial,
Yeah.
because while there's no evidence to support that Justice and Manny had weapons pointed at Tyson, there was no evidence. There's no like physical evidence. It was just like random witness statements from the street and and Tyson's statement.
There is reasonable doubt.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you. You watch a lot of Law and Order, I see.
I don't. I listen
okay.
to a lot of true crime podcasts.
So Jess is obviously heartbroken because he's
Yeah.
like, I have to go through all of this again in 6 months when they have a new trial. I will have, already started college at Yale and, started my life with my girlfriend and like,
And it's just all pulling him back to these old memories.
yeah. And he's like, I just want to be done with it. Like,
Yeah.
I'm heartbroken enough that I lost my best friend. Like, what the fuck else could go wrong?
Yeah.
Jess decides to hang out with SJ, and they're like being all nasty and cute, and not nasty in like a way, but like nasty as in like, ew, you guys are gross because you're in love.
Yes. Okay.
Because they're planning out how he's going to be at Yale and she's going to Columbia, and they're gonna like figure out how
They're
they
both
can
going
see
to
each other.
nice schools.
I know, because they're both mad smart. Mad smart. When SJ's mom gets a call, because she's Jess's attorney, because Garrett Tyson has been murdered in his jail cell by 3 other inmates.
Yep.
Da, 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 da. Sorry, should we not be celebrating that he got murdered?
No.
Why?
No, I'm sorry.
Oh.
No, I'm thinking hashtag Jeffrey Epstein didn't kill himself.
I mean, right?
No, but yeah, good. I mean, I think that's justice served.
Justice served for justice.
Served. Yes.
So the final letter to Dr. King from Justice is dated like almost an entire year after his first letter. So all of this shit that has happened to Justice has happened over the course of 1 year.
Yeah.
Can
His
you
senior year.
Believe that. Yeah.
It's insane.
The worst senior year on record.
Yeah.
And he talks to Dr. King about his new life at Yale and questions what his whole purpose behind this quote experiment was, because it had begun with him wanting to be a better person, to live more like Dr. King.
Yeah.
But after the last year of his life, he's like got a new open eye, because now he's noticing when he's being racially profiled, and that had never been something that he had to worry about before.
Yeah.
Now he's seeing it more and more, and he's seeing more prejudice.
It has. It's opened his eyes to the injustices of the world.
So sad. But yeah, but he thanks Dr. King for like this whole letter, because he has like a composition notebook that he had been using to write to Dr. King.
Yeah.
So there's an epilogue. 4 months later, Jess sees Jared standing over Manny's grave. Jared has been crying and is heartbroken that his friend has died, and like talks to Jess about how it really hasn't set in that like Manny isn't going to be the best man at his wedding, isn't going to be the godfather to his children. Like, it's something that like you never saw this side of Jared. It was like you were being a racist asshole this whole time, but you were actually really close with me. He was actually really close with Manny.
He was just being a dumb kid.
And
it's his parents' fault that he was acting that way. Yeah.
But and Jared is actually going to Yale with Jess.
Okay.
So Jared tells Jess that he's planning to become a civil rights lawyer, and had even started taking an African American studies course to learn more about his best friend, his late best friend.
That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's that. But I do want to read the author's note at the very end of the book, because I found it to be incredibly powerful. It's like a page.
Okay.
So this is from Nick Stone. Dear reader, I didn't really intend to write this book. Frankly, I was afraid to even try. There was a lot going on in our nation at the time: protests over the shooting death of Michael Brown in Missouri, the choking death of Eric Garner in New York, Michael Dunn's second trial and murder conviction in the shooting death of Jordan Davis in Florida. And I was just trying to sort through my feelings about all of it. I didn't think I could do the topic justice. I didn't want to dishonor the fallen by failing to do it justice. Since I grew up with a dad who was a police officer, I struggled to reconcile what I knew of him and his former colleagues with the men in uniform who had taken the lives of unarmed civilians. But the idea wouldn't let me go. And it wouldn't let go of the nation either. Protests erupted across the country, the Black Lives Matter movement cranked up, and suddenly people everywhere were quoting Dr. Martin Luther King. I wondered, what would Dr. King say and do if he were living in our present social climate? How would his teachings hold up now? I sent my friend and mentor, Jodi Picoult, an off-the-cuff, quote, pitch for Dear Martin. Jodi was working on Small Great Things, a novel that dealt with American race relations, so I thought she could give me some good advice. She loved it and encouraged me to keep writing. So this is why I created Justice McAllister's story, the events of his high school senior year, and why he started writing to Dr. King. And his realization that while the answers can be hard to come by, the point is to find the courage to ask the questions in the first place. I hope this journey will give you a way to identify your own questions and answers. So I found that to be really relevant.
Yeah. And we know what events now.
Yeah, we know what events now, but also I learned a lot from this book and from this episode in general. So it's like I said at the beginning, it's not lost on me. I'm white. I know that I have more privilege than others.
Yeah.
And it's awful and it's sad and I hate it. But kind of like when we did the teen angst episode and I had talked about Sarah Sadie and her situation, it was kind of the same thing where I didn't know any of that was going on because I grew up in a very isolated, sheltered area, this suburb of Dallas that just really, the high school that I grew up in just really wasn't that bad, I guess, compared to other schools and other things that schools have gone through. So it was just something that I learned a lot from this book about just the experiences that teenagers go through. Yeah. I find that to be awful that a teenager had to go through this. And this is based on true events. That's what fucks me up the most, is that an actual teenager had to live through this, and that's just awful, and I hate it. I'm getting emotional, I'm sorry. Because I just hate that some kid had to go through this.
Yeah.
So what's the best, worst part of the book? I guess my favorite part would be when Blake gets uppercut for wearing a Klansman outfit.
Yeah, and I personally, sorry, I don't usually interject on like your analysis.
No, you're good.
But I appreciated what Nick Stone did with Jared at the end.
I did appreciate what she did with him. I was actually going to talk about that in my what character did I like the best and least. I liked Jared the least through the whole book, and then the last page I liked him the best because it was one of those things that was like you really didn't know what type of person he was this whole time because he kind of just had like that preppy, popular boy front, but then you actually see behind that Manny actually meant a great deal to him.
Yeah, he saw the consequences of his actions and how.
Would I recommend this book? Absolutely.
I want to read it.
Absolutely, positively. Please read this fucking book.
Positively.
Please read this book. One thing to note. So remember Quan Banks?
Yeah.
There's actually a book called Dear Justice that is being released on September 29th, 2020, this month.
Okay.
Which is the sequel to Dear Martin and tells the story of Vernell Laquan Banks, a.k.a. Quan, and his story of how he ended up in jail for a murder charge.
Ooh, so there might be more to that, too.
There is more to that.
Okay.
I wanted to I went to go look at the summary for this book, and it tells a lot, but I wanted to purposefully leave it at a cliffhanger so everyone will go and read it.
Okay.
Because I'm going to read it, because I'm excited.
Part deux.
But, yeah, so go read Dear Justice, releases on September 29th.
You mean Dear Quan? Dear
Justice.
Dear Justice.
And also Dear Martin, please read this book. It's currently free on Kindle Unlimited, so go ahead.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right. So, what is our next episode, Cobi?
Oscar Gold.
We're going to be both choosing books that were Academy Award winners. And I'm interested to see how my book turns out. I haven't started it yet.
I haven't even picked a book, if I'm being honest. I was okay. Funny story. I was going to choose this one book, but it's way too heavy.
Okay. We've done 2 heavy episodes in a row.
I was like,
yeah, let's.
Can I tell you what it was going to be?
Sure.
I was going to do Schindler's List. And then I was like, better not.
Yeah.
That's mad heavy about the Holocaust and shit after the last 2 episodes.
Yeah.
So. But yeah, we're doing Oscar Gold next. Tune in.
Yay. All right. And this is, So this is Booked on a Feeling, guys.
This is always the awkward part. Okay. Love you guys.
Love you. Bye.